Well, good day, my friends. We are traveling the back roads of Oklahoma today, headed for the town of Pampa, where Woody Guthrie, one of the greatest songwriters of all time, a man who they actually accused because of his songs of being a socialist, a communist, and eventually the government would trail him, follow his every move, and then get him blacklisted. We're going to see where his music career all started. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. So I pulled off to the side of the road just to stretch my legs. And as I did, I noticed a big giant arrow coming out of the ground. Of course, this used to be Native American land, and on the opposite side there's a Buffalo Soldier monument. So let's see what this is. This is like the twin arrows. It says, near this site, September 12th, 1874, Kiowa and Comanche fought. Major William Price at the Battle of Sweetwater Creek, arrow sculptor Charles Smith. Oh, so it's a battle memorial. So like I said, we're headed to Pampa today, and it's not where Woody was born. He was born and pretty much raised throughout school in Okima. But his father owned land there and made a lot of bad deals and ended up losing the land, and then told his two oldest sons, Woody and his brother, to just stay there and basically live with friends. And he took off to Pampa with the younger three children. His wife actually had Huntington's disease, which basically would cause her to act crazy and have outbursts and be erratic. So they ended up institutionalizing her. And so when Woody was a junior in high school, he dropped out of school and came out to Pampa, where we are headed. Pampa, Texas, we have arrived. Pampa, I'm not sure. I've never heard anybody talk about it, so sorry if I mispronounced it. The town in and of itself is kind of interesting because Woody himself was a man who, when he left here, went by boxcars and hitchhiking because the Dust Bowl had basically made this fertile farmland a desert. And so as he traveled, what he ended up noticing and what all the experiences he had, that's what he would write his songs about. Basically how the people owned the land and that the land were for the people, which is, you know, hence the song, this land is our land, this land is your land, this land is my land. So I'm just going to show a little bit of the town here, the lamplighter. And he worked over here. He had a successful radio show at one point in Los Angeles and was really popular. And then when he was blacklisted, they kicked him off the air. He had a friend, Will Gear, who was Grandpa Walton, who had built a theater out in Topanga Canyon and had a cabin there for Woody, and Woody would stay there when he was blacklisted for a while. And he wrote a book called Bound for Glory that Bob Dylan would say was one of the most inspiring things in his life. So they have a little bit of Woody's history here in town, and something actually that says Bound for Glory back there. Cobblestone streets and a monster truck. His father was apparently a pretty big member of the KKK, so Woody was against all of that. Basically everything his father was for, business and racism, Woody would sing against all of that stuff. That all people were equal. Look at this, this is great. Woody Guthrie, Bound for Glory. And then there's Alice's restaurant. Which I was a bigger, that's what made me a fan of Woody, was I was a fan of Arlo. In high school I listened to Alice's Restaurant and I thought that was amazing. This is great. There's some old rails. Arlo Guthrie, Alice's Restaurant. June Thomas, 1942 to 2010. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Excepting Alice. I always love that line. It's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. There's our railroad track. Look at that, water pump, old car. God, this is cool. Woody had several kids in his life and had the same affliction. Basically, his mom had lost one of her sons and that caused her Huntington's disease to come about. Well, he lost a daughter when she was 4 and that started showing signs that he had the Huntington's disease as well. That is so cool. I can't believe I'm looking at Alice's Restaurant. For me, this is mandatory Thanksgiving listening. Mandatory. The back door of Alice's. This is not a large town, so I didn't know what I was going to find here actually. When you look it up, it really only mentions the store that I'm going to show you where Woody worked. Didn't know what I would find here, so this is cool. Wish the tourism board would do a little better job of promoting that they have this kind of stuff here. So Huntington's disease that he had and that his mom had basically causes you over like a 10 to 20 year span to just have crazy outbursts, unpredictable behavior, fits, and eventually when it really sets in, it causes your body to just completely shut down, to where Woody at the end of his life couldn't even really move anything but his eyelids. Here it is, Harris Drugs. Take a look at this. This is also the Woody Guthrie Folk Music Center Museum. Harris Drugs. So they have a historical sign that said, American folk musician Woodrow Wilson Woody Guthrie. Yep, he was named after the president. Moved to Pampa from his native Oklahoma at age 17. Here he learned to play the guitar, joined with other musicians to perform for area events. Guthrie briefly attended Pampa High School and from 1930 until 1935 worked as a soda jerk at this site, home of the former Harris Drug Store. He also spent much of his time reading books in the Pampa City Library, preparing for his most productive years as a poet, lyricist, and folk balladeer during the 1940s and early 50s. He left Pampa for California in 1937, and in 1940 went to New York City where he was recognized for his writings and performances. He died there in 1967. So he met his wife here, his first wife, who he had, I think, 3 kids with, Mary. He met her here, and then they eventually went out to California. Then he recorded everything for RCA, but he always used to say, these songs didn't cost me anything to write, so you shouldn't have to pay to hear them. He was that kind of, when they said socialist, he was that kind of socialist, basically. So he did eventually end up spending several years in a sanitarium. And then they have another historical plaque over here. It says he was the composer of This Land Is Your Land and known around the world as the Dust Bowl Balladeer. Lived in Pampa, Texas from 1929 to 1937. He first learned to play the guitar in Harris Drug Store. Formed his first musical band, the Corncob Trio, and was a member of the Pampa Junior Chamber of Commerce Band. He married Mary Jennings and started a family living at 408 South Russell Street. Okay, we'll have to go over there and see what's there now. So Guthrie composed his first songs in Pampa and based them on his experiences living here, which included the dust storms of the mid-1930s and the Great Depression. His Dust Bowl ballads of the 1930s and Great Depression were recorded in the 1940s and documented Pampa's experience during the ravaging dust storms, as well as America's largest migration, when hundreds of thousands of Americans were forced to leave their devastated farms and homesteads in search of a new life out west. His iconic classics, Tom Joad, Pastures of Plenty, I Ain't Got No Home, So Long, It's Been Good to Know Ya, Vigilante Man, The Great Dust Storm, Dust Bowl Refugee, Deportee, Pretty Boy Floyd, all tell the story of people's hardships as well as their hopes of becoming an American folk standards. Woody Guthrie is considered by many to be the father of American folk music, bringing rural roots music to urban audiences. Cited by people like The Clash, Jimi Hendrix, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, John Lennon, John Mellencamp, Jackson Browne, and hundreds of others have all been influenced by him. Without further ado, it's open. Let's go see it. Also a live music venue as well as museum. And they were telling me that this used to be two stores. This was the drugstore over here, that was Harris, and that there was a wall you can see right here that they've cut off. This other side was the barber shop over here. This is the performance space that they have now. This is actually dedicated by his first wife, Mary. This is May 20th, 2002. And here's a photo of his early band here in town. He's there in the middle, playing the banjo. While he lived here, he would learn guitar, banjo, and fiddle. A lot of his history here on the walls, telling of his life and all kinds of historical photos. That's kind of cool. There he is with his wife, Mary. Here Woody is in town here when he was a teenager. They were telling me that his dad actually lived in a boarding house right across the street, so this very well could have been taken in the alley right across the street. And here's what the town would have looked like that we just walked. That block we just walked up, that's what it would have looked like in his day. And that's a drawing he made. He calls it Boomtown. And they have tons of history about him all over the walls. But what I like is that they have a recreation of the old drugstore right here that he would have worked at as a soda jerk. And they were saying that back in those days it was during Prohibition, but if you had a doctor's note you could get a pint every 10 days. So they basically had like 2 sodas here and alcohol. So he said this was not the original soda fountain bar, but it came from a saloon here in town, so it's very likely that Woody would have worked there or seen it as well. He said they actually had 3 drugstores here in town. Behind the counter they have a poster of Alice's Restaurant, Massacre by Arlo Guthrie. And as you can imagine, they have a festival. So we'll go over and check out some great art. And I guess every Friday night they have like a live jam session night. Here's some art of Woody in front of the Alamo Hotel. And then I think this is supposed to be all of his kids, because this white-haired one right there sitting on Alice's Restaurant, that's Arlo, so that's probably all of his descendants. And Woody served in the military. He was a merchant marine. Then they redrafted him again, so he served quite a bit. But he would eventually put on his guitar, "This Machine Kills Fascists." Would have songs about it. And if you want to see the cabin that he lived at in California, at Will Geer's place, Go look up my video from Will Gear's home. His daughter actually gave me like a full tour of the place, and hey, there's Arlo, and showed me the cabin. That's the boyhood home of Woody Guthrie, but that's not here in town. Here's a Reuben James life preserver, and he had written a song about Reuben James, the sinking of the Reuben James right there. And here are the typed up original writings. So there's where we came in, and his father's boarding house was literally right there, because when I showed you the photo of Woody leaning up against that pole, I said, has anybody matched up where it was? And he said, we think it was right behind that building, because that used to be the old electric company over there, and you can see the electric field in the background, but we're not sure. So that's where he would have worked as a soda jerk. He would have actually, it would have been in those doors that they customers would have came in, but they have those closed off for right now for the museum. So he worked there and got his first guitar and learned how to play guitar here. That is awesome. They sell his books, t-shirts. They have folk festivals in his honor with Sonny Terry. There's a statue of Woody right there. That was awesome. There's a nice docent in there that was able to give some information. Like I said, he told me that the boarding house that Woody's dad lived in was right over there. So the photo probably would have been taken, they believe, through this alleyway right here that's fenced off. Incoming car, hold on. See, there's some telephone pole behind there. What a great stop. This was so awesome. For nothing else, just to see Alice's restaurant. I love that, and to see where Woody started it all. So I guess we got to go visit the home address we found. So as we drive away from Alice's restaurant, where they lived, where Woody lived, was literally just, if you go over here and make a left, it was right there. This would have been 408 South Russell right there. There would have been, you know, a dwelling there. And that's where he and his first wife would have lived when he started his career, and they started having kids together. No longer there, but man, what a piece of history. And there's something else from the Alice's Restaurant song I want to point out. So if you know the Alice's Restaurant Massacre song, we were just right over there where that white building is. That's where Alice's Restaurant is. And in the song he says, Alice doesn't live there though. She lives at a church nearby. I think that's the church nearby right there. We can't eat at Alice's Restaurant, but we can go to the Coney Island Cafe and get a Coney dog. Celebrating 90 years. It's gotta be good for 90 years. Oh, this is great. This is really old school. They have a pie option also, but I'm here for the Coney dog. I'm excited to try this. It should be fun. There we go. There are my two chili dogs. I'm gonna give it a try. I'll let you know what I think. First bite with cheese, chili, onions, and mustard. Excellent. I love it. This place is great. It's not the Cincinnati sweet style chili or anything like that. It's good style Texas chili. Not too spicy either. Well, my friends, we're gonna call it a day. This day was awesome. From Alice's Restaurant, we will see you next time. Have a great night. Goodbye.